All right, let's talk about a situation every creator dreams of, but every engineer has nightmares about. What do you do when your app or your website suddenly gets 1 million visitors overnight? It's the kind of thing that can make or break you. So let's get into it.
Just imagine that for a second. You wake up, you check your phone, and your little side project, your passion, it's everywhere. It's the #1 story on the internet. Traffic is just completely off the charts. So, here's the real question. Is your server celebrating with you, or is it literally melting in a server wreck somewhere?
And look, let's be totally clear. This is the absolute best problem you can possibly have, right? But the thing is, sudden success can be just as deadly as failure if your system can't handle it. Surviving that massive wave of attention isn't about getting lucky. It's all about being prepared.
And when we talk about preparation, engineers really face this fundamental choice. Do you scale up, making one single thing incredibly powerful, or do you scale out and build an entire team of systems to share the workload? This decision is right at the core of how the modern internet actually works.
You know, the official term for all this is scaling, and it's really just a straightforward idea. It's the process of making your system bigger and stronger so it can handle more of, well, everything. More traffic, more data, more requests, all without falling over. It's about growing without the growing pains.
So let's meet our two main approaches. First up, you've got vertical scaling, which we call scaling up. Think of this like taking your car and swapping the engine for a giant supercharged V8. Then, on the other side, you have horizontal scaling, or scaling out. This is more like, instead of upgrading your one car, you just add more cars to your fleet. Two totally different ways of thinking about the same problem.
Okay, so first, let's dig into the path of just raw power, scaling up. This is usually the first, most intuitive thing that engineers do when a system starts to feel a little slow or overwhelmed.
So what does it actually mean to scale up? Well, it's pretty much exactly like upgrading your own laptop, right? If your computer is running slow, you don't go out and buy a second one. No, you put more RAM in it, you get a faster CPU, a bigger hard drive. You're just making that one machine you already have into an absolute powerhouse.
So here's what you might be starting with. A pretty standard server running your app. It's got a couple of CPUs, maybe 8 gigs of RAM, and for your first few thousand users, it's perfect. No problems at all.
But then, boom, the traffic explodes. So with vertical scaling, what you do is you shut the server down for a bit, you swap out the components for much bigger ones, and then you turn it back on. Now that exact same machine is a monster with something like 8 times the processing power and memory. It's a very direct, very powerful solution. So why would you do it this way? Well, the #1 reason is simplicity. I mean, it is so simple. A lot of the time, you don't have to change a single line of your application's code. And for a startup or an early stage project, that's huge. It lets them stay focused on what really matters, building a great product, not getting lost in complicated infrastructure.
But what happens when even the biggest, most powerful server you can buy still isn't enough? Well, that's when you have to start thinking differently. It's time to talk about the strength of scaling out, the power of teamwork.
Yeah, horizontal scaling completely changes the game. Instead of relying on one super server, you build a whole team of regular servers that work together. And the best analogy for this is a busy grocery store. When the lines get really long, they don't try to find one superhuman cashier who can scan things at the speed of light. Of course not. They just open more checkout lanes. Simple as that.
So how does all this teamwork actually happen? Well, there's a secret weapon here, and it's called a load balancer. Think of it like a traffic cop for your website. When a request from a user comes in, the load balancer is the first thing to see it. It takes a quick look and says, okay, server 1 is pretty busy, server 3 is handling something big, server 2 is free, you go over there. It just intelligently spreads the work around so no single server gets overwhelmed.
And the advantages here are just massive. This whole approach is designed for the chaotic, unpredictable nature of the internet. You get a sudden spike in traffic? No problem. You just add a few more servers to the team. And this is crucial, it's highly fault tolerant. If one of the servers in the group fails, who cares? The load balancer just stops sending traffic there and the other servers pick up the slack.
Okay, so we've got two really powerful strategies. We have the simple, brute force approach of scaling up, and then we have the flexible, team-based approach of scaling out. So, how on earth do you choose which one is right for you?
This really lays it all out pretty clearly. Scaling up is simple, it's fast, but eventually you're going to hit a physical limit. There's only so big a server you can actually buy. Plus, every time you upgrade, you have to have some downtime. Scaling out, on the other hand, can basically grow forever, and it gives you incredible reliability. But it's way more complex to set up, and your application has to be designed from the start to work this way.
And this right here, this is probably the single biggest difference between the two: reliability. With vertical scaling, that one giant server is your hero, yeah, but it's also a single point of failure. If that machine goes down for any reason, your entire website, your entire app is just offline, gone. With horizontal scaling, the system is built to be resilient. Losing one server is just a tiny hiccup, not a total catastrophe.
So theory is great and all, but let's talk about how this stuff actually plays out in the real world. How do actual companies, from tiny startups to huge internet giants, use these strategies?
Pretty much every startup you can think of begins its journey by scaling up. And why is that? Well, because in the early days, speed is everything. It's cheaper, it's faster to implement, and it lets a small team put 100% of their energy into finding customers and building an amazing product, not trying to become world-class infrastructure experts.
But the second you get to the size of a major e-commerce platform or a global social network, everything changes. Everything is horizontal. They use these incredible automated systems that add and remove servers from minute to minute based on real-time traffic. Their data is physically spread all over the planet to be closer to their users. It's really the only way you can reliably serve billions of people.
So what's the real answer here? Up or out? Well, it turns out the smartest people in the industry don't even see it as a competition. They see it as a journey. You start with the simple path, you scale up, and then you evolve to the more complex path of scaling out only when you absolutely have to.
And that right there, that is the key takeaway. The debate isn't really up versus out. It's about understanding the natural life of a growing system. You scale up until you just can't anymore, and then you begin the journey of scaling out. It's all about timing and necessity.
So I'll just leave you with this little thought experiment. The next time your favorite app feels really sluggish during a big live event, or a shopping site crashes right in the middle of a huge sale, think about what we just talked about. Are you watching a single powerful server hit its absolute limit? Or are you seeing the growing pains of a system that's trying to learn how to work as a team? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.